Hogsty.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Hogsty. Merry New Year to you all.
No, Alex, God almighty, I hate you. It's Happy New Year.
How did I know you were going to do that?
Just a horrible human being. Don't mess up things.
I turned it on them.
Can't have to be difficult. You're
Happy
taking
New
after
Year, guys.
taking
Happy
after
New Year.
me.
2024, God, I hope it's better than 2023, especially when it comes to the Washington Commanders, who hopefully may not even be called the Commanders anymore after this.
Who knows? I might be a fan again at some point.
Yeah.
If they actually went back to a real name.
Yeah, if they had a decent name, not something stupid that Dan Snyder thought up when he was drunk and passed out in the lap of a prostitute, probably. I'm just saying probably.
You know what's the worst about it? That stupid-ass mascot.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Major Tuddy.
That is the stupidest mascot I have ever seen at any sport at any level. It is just what a horrible mascot he is.
I would say it's a bad mascot, but there are so many bad mascots. If you go and look at all 32 teams' mascots, half of them it's just like we found a homeless man and put a bag on him. Like, it's really bad.
Well, I mean, the Texans have a bull and their name is the Texan. I mean, there's a lot of bad mascots. Right. I get it. But that thing is just awful.
It's worse without the helmet. Here's the thing. Because I'm definitely in the pro, it should have been Hogs camp if you're going to change the name. I kind of like that our mascot's a hog, but I agree it doesn't look like a great mascot.
It's very random.
Yeah, especially with the kind of design that some of the fans came up with. It was a little bit of more of a meaner look and more, militant look and everything. And they come out with this thing. It's like
also the military nature. You gave him a rank of major, which is a grade below the rank of commander in the Navy, and by anyone's estimation is a mid-level officer.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So he's average at best.
I mean, I think they didn't want him to outrank anybody. That's the problem. So they didn't want him to be like Admiral Tuddy. What did you want him to do?
I want him to have a real name and a real mascot. And you could have been the Red Wolves. I would have been down with that and had a red wolf on the,
Sure. Tuddy's just a terrible name.
Now, of course, when I had this conversation with a guy at work on, about, I could see Josh Harris having that serious conversation and maybe changing. He's like, you're out of your mind. He don't care about what the fans say. He only cares about the money and everything. He's not going to invest all that money into changing the name and this, that. And I said, you know what, you might be right. But I think where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's an outside chance that he might ditch this name.
The only reason I think that they might, and we'll get to the stupid games in a minute, but the only because they haven't said no or absolutely not doing it, they haven't just like shut the door right away.
Right.
That's why I think there's still a chance, because you're hurting your own sales, like your jersey and uniform sales and t-shirt sales, by saying maybe, because then people are going to hedge their bets and not want to spend money. Like, I'm not buying a $200 jersey if you might change it.
Actually,
to be honest, I think that a Native American group, not just the group wanting the Redskins back, because that's not coming back. We know that.
Yeah.
But just how the petition, not only how many people signed it, but how many people really start talking about it and really talking on a negative side of Commanders, because how it came about was just ridiculous anyway. No fans even voted for it. No fans talked about it. It was always either Hogs or Red Tails or Red Wolves or Wolves or whatever. Next thing you know, hey, we're Commanders. Where'd that come from? We had no idea. I mean,
it came from the path of least resistance for them.
That's right. I actually think they may keep the name.
You think they might at this point?
Very possible. Well, and the reason I say that is it does cost a lot of money to do it. And I think this Harris guy knows that a lot is forgiven if you win.
Sure.
And he knows,
which is exactly what my buddy was saying too, which I did agree with, and he was right on that part.
Exactly. And I think he's also thinking that, like, people like me, I'm stubborn and stuck in my ways and all that, and we're also of the current generation, not the younger generation. And so I think part of him is thinking, if maybe we can get away with not spending the money if the team starts winning, and then the new generation will kind of get used to it and they can forgive a lot, for a winning team. So that may be the thought process, and at some point people say, "Yeah, it's dumb, but it's our dumb, and we like it."
And if it's going to happen, it has to happen this year. Don't wait 3 years from now and decide to change.
Yeah.
Either do it now or you don't do it at all.
Exactly.
That's for sure. The window closes after this offseason for you to make that decision.
Well, no, it doesn't close. No, it doesn't. I mean, they could change the name again. There's no reason why you couldn't change it whenever you felt like it.
Sure, but from like a mental, logical, like cerebral, like it would be very weird if 10 years from now they were like, we're gonna do it, like.
It depends on how the franchise goes.
Sure.
If it's a train wreck, continues to be a train wreck.
They can't get a new stadium in DC and they have to move, then just all bets are off. Like Sure.
But I agree, generally speaking, that the smart play would be to change it immediately. Yeah, I agree with you.
Right.
Yeah. Rip the Band-Aid off.
And don't do like this struggle session over months, and just decide what it is. Yeah. Tell everybody don't have phony surveys and phony fan things. You guys participated in them and they didn't listen whatsoever. Just do it.
Nothing
just
at all.
Say we're gonna change it to this.
Yeah. The end.
We will figure out the uniforms because that takes time, but we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, just have a press conference, unveil the name. Here's where we are now. Let's talk about the draft.
Yep.
No questions about the name. This is who we are. Bam.
I mean, realistically, I think the only name I could probably get behind would probably be the Red Wolves or Red Tails. Beyond that, I don't think I could really live with any of those.
Well, probably Red Hogs. I would think you would.
Maybe that would too. Yeah. Something. Maybe that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Putting red back in it would help. I think a lot of.
Yes,
people.
It would.
Yeah.
It would.
And also, it would mean you don't create stupid black uniforms, maybe.
I can't tell you how much I hate those black uniforms.
Yeah.
Especially since they're literally the Steelers uniform with like a red outline on the numbers.
Exactly.
Yep. And just a very sloppy looking helmet and patches all over, and
Oh, just like how my wife had bought me a Sean Taylor jersey. I told her it was like, I was like, I want nothing to do with them black jerseys at all. So just if you see any other player's name, don't even worry about for black. I want nothing to do with it because they're just ugly. They're just Steeler knockoffs. All they are.
Yeah. And I know your wife, certainly tried hard to get you something you wanted.
I appreciate. No, well, see, she was trying to get that Sean Taylor legacy jersey that I won, and when she saw that, she thought it was that, and I explained to her what it was. I showed her what it was, and she was just
right.
You got a
70s looking one.
You got a Sean Taylor Commanders jersey, did you not?
Well, yeah, that's what she ended up getting, but she returned it.
Oh, she did return. That was I didn't know if she returned it or not. Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
Dave, we never really followed up. What did you have to sleep on the couch or anything? No big fallout on that one?
No, not at all. She completely understood.
I was trying to help you out by saying, we all know she tried hard and
Oh, trust me. When it comes to my wife, I'm probably one of the few that very lucky in terms of the woman that I have. So. But I've never had problems with her on that aspect at all.
That's good. I mean, because that could be a tough conversation sometimes.
My woman never argues with me ever.
Steve, that's not true. I know of once. We won't get into it on air.
It almost happened on air. What do you remember?
Yes,
Nobody ever knew.
But mute buttons are a good thing. Yeah. All right, let's talk about that stupid game that happened. Hey guys. They almost looked like a decent football team for a whole half of a football game.
Yeah, for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, by halftime, they were only down 3 points. We all thought they were going to get blown out. I'm saying that's a win for
when you're in Washington's world. Yeah.
Yeah, in Washington's world these days.
For the season we've had, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to blow through this. Yeah, because we're not going to spend a ton of time on this. Sam Howell, second string quarterback Sam Howell, was 17 for 20, 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. 1 sack, quarterback rating of 60. Brian Robinson was the leading rusher, 9 for 44. Antonio Gibson, 4 for 19. As a team, they are 14 for 62, which is just pathetic. And receiving wise, Terry McLaurin was leading receiver, 4 for 61. Curtis Samuel, 3 for 33. Defense, Cody Barton, 12 tackles combined, 9 solo. Khalid Hudson, 11 for 11 total, 4 solo. Cam Curl 9 and 6. There was one sack that was it's attributed to the team. I don't remember what that sack was, to be honest.
I remember he fell down.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah. And so we got it, since they lost a big game, we got to play the Trustway game. So Trustway, well, there was 163 net yards of passing, 62 yards of rushing, and so that is 225 total passing yard. Total.
I'm gonna go over for Trustway on this one. That's Dave? A pretty low total.
It is a low total. Dave? Did Trustway outpunt the? For those of you who don't know, this is our losing game. Did Trustway outpunt the entire offense game?
And they didn't get Trustway hurt this week too.
That's true.
Nice.
Well, Trustway only had 3 punts in the game anyway, didn't he?
I don't know. This is the Trustway game, Dave.
Yeah, no, I don't think he did. In fact, my over/under failed on this one too, miserably, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. So no, Trustway did not outpunt the offense this week.
Really?
3 punts, 156 yards.
He could still hit 200 on 3 punts. I believe in Tress in that, but
that's a lot of punting, man. That's 65, more than 65 yards of punt.
I know.
And yeah, your over/under did fail miserably, Dave, in this one. Yeah.
Horribly. Yeah.
That's too bad.
Well, actually, Alex was right. He was the under.
Yeah, I said over. Okay, and then from a 49ers standpoint, real quick, Brock Purdy, 22, real quarterback, 22 for 28, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interception, quarterback rating 124.7. Elijah Mitchell was the leading rusher, 17 for 80. Christian McCaffrey, 14 for 64, 4.6 yards per carry. Brandon Ayuk was the leading receiver, 7 for 114 yards. Debo Samuel, 5 for 37, and that is stats.
I feel like a lot of people were probably upset about this game who had Christian McCaffrey in fantasy football because it was very obvious from the get-go that San Francisco was holding him out as much as possible.
Wouldn't you when you're playing a second-rate team? Yeah.
Well, but this was championship weekend for a lot of leagues.
Well, he got banged up a little bit, so
he did.
The second half.
But if they were playing a real team, he would have toughed it out. You know that.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Christian McCaffrey is like the number 1 pick in fantasy football.
Yeah, I think I saw something where he's on over half the teams that made the championship.
No doubt it.
In fantasy football this year. It's ridiculous. Yep. Yeah. So
let's start with this on this game. Because Washington looked like Washington. They looked somewhat prepared for part of this game, somewhat interested. It all fell apart predictably, like we all knew it would. But so Sam Howell got benched and then ended up back in the game, starting the game because of the injury to the guy who he got benched for.
The mystery hammy that everyone's talking about. Yeah.
So 17 for 28. 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions is pretty lousy. That's par for the course for second half of the season. Sam Howell. Yeah. I didn't see anything that changed my mind about anything on this guy. He's just not the future.
He had, I'd say, 2, maybe 3 good drives all game. The one where they went to Terry a lot was a very nice drive. That where they did a little pop pass, then they hit Terry in the end zone to finish it. That was a great drive, but you can't just live off of 1-2 good drives. I know even with a young quarterback, you gotta you need to put up 24 points a game. That's just the way the NFL is if you want a shot.
I'll be honest with you. I think you're just seeing the basically how Ron Rivera set him up to fail this year anyway. Terrible offensive line. Minimal to no running game, and you put an offensive coordinator who passes the ball on a 67 to near 70% clip every single week. And he's getting hammered. His progressions are slow. He takes bad sacks, and then, we all kind of saw this coming down.
I would like to point out that I said this in the offseason when they hired Eric Bieniemy. I said this could happen.
Well, I don't know if you noticed how I tagged you in a comment. Chris Russell, because Alan Alar, whatever, was talking about going into the season. Now, Chris Russell got it right about the fact that, he was concerned exactly all the points that you were saying all season. I jumped in there and I'm like, well, in actuality, really kind of Steve Thomas of the Hogstye was the one that kind of paved the way with all, because he was talking about that from almost day one of the hire. Because he had you had no confidence in the offensive line, which turned out to be correct. You had no confidence in the running game, especially Antonio Gibson, that people had super high. You were correct on that, and you actually end up being correct. The fact that maybe we were overhyping the receiving core going into it, because you knew I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Chris is welcome to come back on this show and apologize to me for stealing my analysis.
Look, Chris is a nice enough guy where he would probably apologize even if he didn't do anything.
He was real nice
right.
guy. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, but you were correct on. I think we all knew the O-line was going to be bad. I don't think anyone nailed the running situation quite like you did. That's for sure.
Right.
And we saw a bit of that again this week. Like, what's blown my mind, the little that we do see them not line up in shotgun, or they just get under center and they go very run heavy out of like 2 tight ends. They can run decently out of that, but they only do it 3 times a game, if even that. The thing that's blown my mind about Eric Bieniemy is I knew he'd be pass happy, and he's like playing this spread offense kind of what I don't know if you would consider it an air raid style, or it's not West Coast, whatever they're doing anymore.
It's not really a spread offense either. It's just really, really pass centric offense.
Yeah. So maybe more of an air raid type thing.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with all the deep vertical stuff he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is another game.
It's not original, No,
this is another game where Sam Howell had 28 pass attempts and then 1 rush, so 29 called pass plays,
right,
and 13 called rushing plays.
Right.
For a quarterback that is struggling and has got mental issues now because you benched him for literally 5 minutes.
He's got happy feet. You can see it.
Yeah.
Like, he panics every drop back.
And that you have a team that you need to keep the ball out of their hands. So what do? You pass 29 times in a game.
I think the first 6 plays in a row were passes.
It's crazy. Eric Bieniemy needs to be fired. I don't know. Anybody out there still thinks that dude needs to be the coach has lost their mind.
No.
There are a lot of fans that actually are on your side on that one.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, fans have turned on Bieniemy pretty well, I think. And look, here's the thing. I think he has some things he's probably very good at. Everyone says he's a great attention to detail guy when it comes to prep. He's good in, practices. But he's not an X's and O's guy. He doesn't have a great feel for game flow, it seems like. And he doesn't adjust to his team at all. We've seen 0 serious adjustments to how this team's run.
He had a Hall of Fame head coach, Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Yes.
And, it's really easy to be a good band if you have Eddie Van Halen playing your guitar.
Right.
That's true.
And a star drummer. Too.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Or pick your, Jimmy Page, whatever. Right. But point is, that is Eric Bieniemy. I mean, he interviewed for a lot of head coaching positions and never got it. And the claim was always racism. But the truth is, he'd never interviewed well, and he never proved that he was the star behind the Chiefs' magic. And that's the truth.
The thing is, the Chiefs, I think it was maybe Patrick Mahomes referred to him as the drill sergeant that they lost, and that kind of is what he is. He yells at you. He's a hard ass. He's a drill sergeant, right? Like, and I think teams need that guy. Yeah. A lot of teams need some. If you're gonna have like a very player friendly coach, you need someone to be a hard ass behind him. Good cop, bad cop kind of thing.
I think the very best NFL coaches in particular are coaches that understand the talent they have and can adapt to what those players do best. Joe Gibbs was the master at it, the best you've ever seen at it.
One of the all-time greats.
Yeah, but there have been others, that do it. Mike Tomlin has been good at it at Pittsburgh, and he's adapted to all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And Eric Bieniemy is the total opposite of it. It's like his way, and be damned if anything else is going to change. I
also put Belichick in that list when he was in his prime. He adjusted very well to his roster.
Well, Bill Belichick is really hampered by his general manager. The general manager of the Patriots really inhibits the head coach. Of course, both of those are named Bill.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Bill
Well,
Belichick's
I was gonna switch the B sound on both names and I was like, oh wait, I can't. It's schmill schmell schmack.
Yeah, I mean, Bill has made some bad drafts and put bad rosters and stuff. I mean, but point is, I think your point is valid. Which, when he's had the talent, he's dramatically changed the team based on what they have. There were years in the early years when they were a running team with Tom Brady. And then they had Randy Moss was wide open, and
Yeah,
a
two
dude who
tight
knows.
ends. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And he did the same thing on defense for a lot of those years
he
too.
sure did.
Yeah.
And that is not Eric Bieniemy in any capacity.
No. Scheme guys will only get you so far.
Yep.
Kyle Shanahan's probably one of the few scheme guys out there who's really been successful being like, this is my system and I make it work.
They got players who are outstanding. Look at their roster.
Oh, yeah. And
in fact, I think Trey Lance that may be the only quarterback that he was not able to flip properly.
Right.
I mean, he's been able to grab almost any quarterback and succeed with him.
I would like to point out
level,
that
anyway.
Somebody said in the pre-draft process that Trey Lance would be a bust. Mm-hmm. Kyle Shanahan did not listen to me.
I would also say trading up and giving away massive assets for a quarterback is a pretty dumb idea. It has not worked
stupid.
well for him.
No.
If it wasn't for Brock Purdy coming out of nowhere like that,
they'd have been in trouble.
They would have been in deep trouble right now.
Kyle Shanahan might be on the market right now.
There might have been a chance of that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because you only get so many cracks. Let's be honest, and he would have been out of plays at that point.
Yeah.
So
out of plays and picks.
Yeah.
So that's the 49er. We don't need to spend too much time on it.
No.
It is what it is. We knew that was going to happen. It went better, I think. Let's just summarize it for me.
We all thought they'd get blown out. They didn't get blown out as bad as we thought.
Not as bad. It only really went south in the second half. They stuck with them. I mean, you knew it was eventually, but so Washington tried to man up in their own way, and they did kind of, which is about all you can expect from a dregs of the NFL team.
Yeah. And now they might have the number 2 pick thanks to some tiebreakers and nonsense like that. Which
have to wait to see what happens this week.
Yeah, we'll see what. Everyone is getting really excited about that. Like right now, they're at number 2, but obviously a lot can change next week.
And I think they maintain it. Obviously, they lose. I think it's the Steelers and Seahawks. I said that they both win their games this week. It'll lock them in for that number 2 pick for schedule wise.
Yeah, I mean, I know you. Like Dave and Alex, you guys know this, but for the benefit of the audience, what Dave is talking about is the primary, the first tiebreaker for draft order is strength of schedule. Right. And so these teams that have to win, who is it? The Seahawks and the Steelers? Who'd you say?
Seahawks and Steelers, I think, is what they were talking about. Yes.
So they're talking about in-season strength of schedule. So how every team ends up, affects the strength of schedule. So the team with the worst strength of schedule, meaning they're the worst team, gets a higher draft pick. Right. And so that's where Washington is right now. The tiebreaker or the head-to-head, weirdly, is the second tiebreaker, not the first, which I think is strange, but it is what it is. So.
Well, I think because they don't want teams purposely tanking one game for that.
That may be true. That's a good point.
Yeah. So everyone's getting talk of the town about, we might have the number 2 pick. We could get a franchise quarterback, blah, blah. Don't just wait until next week because we could suddenly be like the 5th spot again. Like, you got to be a little patient, folks.
I could beat Dallas and ruin it all.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's talk about that because, Steve, you pulled up an interesting stat about Ron Rivera's career numbers.
I got you right here.
Yeah, what's his win-loss total on his career?
So right now, as of this moment, Ron Rivera's career as a head coach, he is exactly 500. Right. 102 with 2 ties.
Yeah.
And so he desperately, no doubt, wants to have a winning overall record as a head coach. He's, by the way, obviously was, Washington is where careers come to die in the NFL. Right. It has been in the past. And that's what happened to him here. He was 546. Winning percentage in Carolina and 402 to date in Washington. So 76, 63 and 1 in Carolina, and he's done 26, 39 and 1 in Washington. So if he just wins this game, he'll be over 500, then he can say I'm an over 500 coach.
Right.
In 13 years or however long it's been. 12
and years. Now I want your guys' opinion on this. I think if they were to somehow beat the Cowboys right now, fans would be madder about a win than the fact that they would beat the Cowboys, which just show. I mean, we're a beaten down fan base. 10 years ago, if you told me that, I would have slapped you. That I would root for us to lose to Dallas. But I think fans would get so upset with this team if they somehow won this last game for no reason, blew up their draft position, kind of screws up the future for them. And if that were the result, I think fans would go nuts.
Well, it's like I said to the Cowboy fan I work with, because obviously we're playing each other this week. I'm like, listen, you win, you take your number 2 seed, and you enjoy yourself. Because we lose and we take our number 2 pick, and we'll come back with a franchise quarterback and whoop up on you later.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I told you my fandom is. Yeah. I mean, I don't pretend to be a diehard Washington fan anymore, but I will say that I never so much care when I'm rooting for a team. I want them to win no matter what. I don't really care about draft order. That'll come next year. It'll work itself out one way or the other. If it were me and I was a diehard Washington fan, I would root to beat, especially Dallas. I would never root for my team to lose, especially to division rivals. So that would be my position. I'm not going to pretend I'm really taking a position.
Under typical normal circumstances, you'd be 100% right on that, and I'd agree with you every other year. But when we had that meaningless win against Miami, we lost out on Joe Burrow because of that. And I'm done with the mediocrity at quarterback. I want to be in the best position possible to get the best guy that the next general manager can grow and mold with and make our franchise guy. Even if he busts out, I don't care. I want to have that opportunity. We haven't had it that long,
I mean, it's a difference of opinion. I just can't. I'm not wired like that. But I understand what you're saying.
Trust me. It pains me to say that about going to get Dallas. But I just want to try to get that guy here at any cost, and I will sell my soul for one game, my Cowboy hatred soul, that is. And then
want me to get you a Cowboy jersey you can wear for this? Well, I'll get it shipped to you overnight if you want.
I'll just send it to my sister. That's all, because she's a Cowboy fan.
You have a weird family football-wise, Dave. You're like all over the map.
A little bit. My dad was a Steelers fan. Of course, he grew up in Steeler country near Johnstown, so yeah.
So you've got Steelers, Eagles, Cowboys, and Washington all in your immediate family.
Yes.
Hey, I technically have the whole NFC East in my family when it comes to.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah. Well, I got family in Philly. I got family in New York. My grandmother's a Cowboys fan because she wanted to spite my grandfather.
I'm surprised the city of Philadelphia hasn't burned down by now. Four bad games in a row. Yeah, I mean, you watch if you're in Philadelphia. Dave, keep your head down, man.
They want Nick Sirianni gone.
I don't doubt it.
Gone.
I would want him gone anyway if I were a Philadelphian. He seems very annoying.
You just don't like him.
Well, like douchebags are fun when you're winning, but when you're losing, they're just douchebags again.
Yeah, fair enough. But this is not the Eagles hour.
Yeah, right.
But look,
we're gonna go all over the place, Steve. We know where we're at.
I know. But we're all assuming that Monday morning Ron Rivera's going to get fired. Correct. As both I'm assuming it'll be both as head coach and GM. He's just going to be gone. Hypothetically, I guess you could fire him out of one, but not the other. I guess, but I think that'd be stupid. If you're going to get rid of him, just get rid of him. And so I think, but the predicate to the quarterback, the draft, and any of it is the GM. For me, what a good real team does isn't what Dan Snyder constantly did. Hire the GM first, let the GM decide the direction of the team, and hire a coach that fits the direction of the team. Now, Dave, you've written multiple articles on this or columns on this, and so why don't you start with the analysis of this? Because that's the process, but you know the names a lot better than I do.
Well, for one, I wanted to spell a narrative about Josh Harris out there that he's going to not make the right decisions, and he has a franchise in the Sixers that's barely below 500. And I said, stop. Right now, it's just your negativity is driving into play right now because of what you had to deal with 24 years. His process is he brings a guy in to run all operations for basketball and hockey, and he lets that process run through. and he doesn't meddle. That's the huge thing. And he's learned and adapted along the way. Now, the one thing that I'm sure you guys, at least Alex anyway, has seen reports that he really likes how the Baltimore franchise is built, how that's constructed and everything. And in my columns, I've talked about multiple young up and coming GMs, but I kind of narrow that down to really kind of one major guy. I put 3 in my column.
Yeah.
But when you talk about like Ian Cunningham, who's with the Bears right now, and he spent a majority of his time with the Ravens, but he also has that Philadelphia Eagle tie under Roseman, so he has that tie and understanding with that. And he's one of the rising young stars coming up right now in terms of as a general manager. And the 3 that I mentioned in here specifically because of the fact that you have the nature of what this franchise has been so far. What they need consistency, they need cohesion, and they need to build with a good philosophical approach. And picking someone from the Ravens or someone like Adam Peters from San Francisco are ideal guys. And the other guy from the Ravens, I'm sorry, is Joe Hortitz as well, who's their who's director of player personnel. And these are the guys that I could see really jumping to his top because you look at how San Francisco is built. They're built in a very sensible way. They have pieces. They truly have position flex, you want to say, like Ayuk and where their defense is and Ayuk to Samuels and so forth. They have guys that make sense where they fit. When they lose a guy, they can move a guy over. They got a guy off the bench and pick up where they need to go. Their offense may jump back there or defense may suffer a bit, but the scheme remains the same. Everything is a sensible fit. And you've seen that in Baltimore for over 10 years. They're just constantly like that. And that's why I picked those 3 guys I think to be top of that list the most.
I'm a big fan of Cunningham. I love that Ozzie Newsome philosophy that he comes from. That.
And I don't know, like if Baltimore has a super unique philosophy. They're just really good at talent evaluation more than anything.
Well, see, that's the thing. When you look at Baltimore, what are they predicated on? A tough defense and a running game. Now they have Lamar Jackson in there. They open at a running game more dynamic.
That's not that's not some great news flash. That's not.
No, you're right. But what do they consistently ensure that they have sensible pieces that fit along the defensive line, offensive line, as in like they have the proper swing tackles you need. They have a guard that can go to center and vice versa that they need that's depth on their roster. They don't when they have an injury, they don't take a step back like most teams. When you look at their defense and how the defense is constructed, they don't have to worry about if they lose. Like how we lost who was our Buffalo nickel a couple years ago that we had that was affecting that role. Once
I know you're talking about.
Once he was gone, that just kind of like the defense was just like, okay, well now we need multiple roles on a guy who doesn't really exactly fit right there, or we need to rotate this. Nothing worked. Nothing. There was nothing we could do to work. We had to adapt the whole scheme overall just to try to make something work. Baltimore doesn't have to do that. And that's what I talk about with their philosophy. Philosophy isn't just necessarily like they have some dynamic offense in there, and they're more old school predicated, sure, but all the pieces they have are all interchangeable in a sensible way that works.
But I think most accurately stated, they don't have nearly the amount of misses.
No,
they picked a bunch of good. Right, you want to hear really? Speaking of misses, I just happened to pull up Twitter here while we were talking because I was hunting for some stuff for the show, and this is Grant Paulson who's the credit for this. He says he gives a stat here: 1 Pro Bowl appearance from 34 draft picks, 0 Pro Bowl appearances from all of Washington's free agent additions during the 4 years of Ron Rivera's tenure. The 1 Pro Bowl I think was Chase Young, was it not, in his rookie year? That was it. That is an unbelievably bad rate because Washington got no Pro Bowls. I think that came out. I saw
this
that
year. They got none. And now, to be clear, that's the picks that Rivera made because Terry made the Pro Bowl. Jonathan Allen made the Pro Bowl.
Wasn't his. Yeah, it wasn't his pick.
The best guys on this team were here before Rivera, and they'll be the best guys on this team after he's gone.
If they don't trade him.
You're right.
Well, right.
We're not making a trade before we fire Rivera.
No, it's true. Yeah, but anyway, so that is an absolutely horrible track record. You couldn't do worse than this.
I mean, we are like this team at this point has to be completely blown up and rebuilt. So, like,
I mean, and I'd also argue that this team is worse off today than it was when he first took it.
Oh, absolutely. The offensive line is worse. The linebackers core is worse.
Right.
I don't think the running back group is particularly all that great.
I will give you one counterintuitive situation that is better, and that is quarterback, because Ron Rivera, the next guy's not coming in saddled to a high draft pick rookie quarterback like Rivera was, like Jay Gruden was, like you could even say Mike Shanahan was.
Kind of addition by subtraction a little bit.
Right. It's very much addition by subtraction, but it's true.
No, that's
we kept on doing things in the stupidest order of, we got a quarterback, he didn't work with the first coach, so we'll try another coach. It fails almost 99%.
Well, you see, also, like most good teams find a quarterback really early in the coach's tenure.
Right, first, second year.
Ron never did that. He had, rest in peace to Dwayne Haskins. I mean, another better team could have handled Dwayne Haskins in a different situation and maybe could have turned him around. Like Lamar Jackson, if Lamar Jackson had come to Washington, he'd be out of the league. They would have ruined him, 100% ruined him. It takes a special blend of coach and leadership and philosophy to make quarterbacks work. And Washington's been Ron Rivera has been the worst. That even Jay Gruden had, he
had a better understanding of it.
Yeah, he did. Ron's just been absolutely
Jay had a better understanding of the whole thing we were talking about earlier, adjusting your scheme to your players a little bit.
He did. For all of Jay's faults, Jay was a much better coach than Ron Rivera has been.
Right. So talking about some of these other GM candidates out there, because I think the three you mentioned, all likelihood that would be my top of the list. I'm a big Cunningham guy from what I've read about him. I'm a sucker for that Baltimore Ravens coaching or front office tree, if you want to kind of think of it that way. But there's a lot of interesting names out there. Morocco Brown, his name is resurfacing again for head coaching gig. Or
remember, tell the people who Morocco Brown is.
A long time ago, kids, Morocco Brown was a young up-and-coming scout for the Washington Redskins. And I'm talking like 12 years ago. He worked in
at the time. A lot of the fans and people who were paying attention thought that they ought to keep Morocco Brown in the organization.
He was kind of seen as like the smartest kid in the room, he was like in his early 30s. And 10 years ago, you didn't put a guy that young in the GM spot. I still don't think.
Was it really that long ago?
Yeah, it was over 10 years ago. It might have been even longer ago, honestly. I don't have his resume up.
I'm trying to find it. See if he's in Wikipedia.
Yeah.
He's not in Wikipedia.
An interesting thing to just note when I've been looking at all the like different articles and stuff, not just what Dave wrote, but throughout the the internet. There's a couple women who are starting to get recognition, like they could become GMs soon, which would
women can't be GMs.
Right.
Like that Dawn Ponte, right?
I'm kidding, for the record.
Yes. That was one name, and then Catherine Nassine, who's with the Browns, who has been in NFL and started out in the CFL, but she's been in football for 34 years in front offices doing scouting, and she's the number 2 now for Cleveland. Cleveland's been pretty good. Despite the fact that they have the worst piece of scum as their, quarterback when he's not hurt.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, Aponte was at the game over the weekend and seen talking to Josh Harris and co, just like friendly chatting on the sideline at one point. So that's another one that
You're right. It was that long time ago, Alex. It says he was director of pro personnel with the Washington Redskins in 2008.
Yeah. Okay, so more like 15 years ago.
No, but apparently he was still in Washington in 2012. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
So I nailed it.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, memory.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
But yeah, there's going to be a ton of names out there. I mean, finding a good GM. It's really just a question of, can you get a guy who, the front office or the ownership likes, and you trust them to really build a good scouting department? Everyone keeps talking about Harris's obsession with analytics. I think analytics is fine, but you can't.
Well, that was where I was about to go with this, because the analytics, I'm a little leery about it, in football especially, and I hope to think that Josh Harris does not overly rely on analytics, because I think I'm old school in many things, and I admit that, but I think there's a lot to be said in football, more so than other sports, for people who know how to watch film and can evaluate a player like that. Some stats do not fit in football as they do in other sports.
Right.
So he can use, yes, absolutely use analytics. I love analytics. I'm the analytics guy on all stuff.
You and I both love numbers. Like, we love playing with stuff.
You have to have a guy who can, or a woman who can, review the film,
right,
and evaluate a player in football.
Not just and there's the third part. You have to be able to talk to these kids, these 22-year-olds, 21-year-olds, and say, is this kid gonna be a problem? Is this kid gonna be a good leader? You have to have a good feel for humans at that level too. To be
baseball's gone overboard with the stats, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Like, the sabermetric stuff is crazy, and I don't think it's done. I don't think that will work in the same way in football. Baseball is a lot easier to do analysis of stats than in football.
The one area where I've thought football could use it the more, and they're starting to, is the whole salary cap structure. How much should you really pay X people? Like, is a wide receiver ever worth $20 million? Probably not, because the production doesn't match the value.
Right.
That kind of stuff. That's where the analytics to me gets fascinating.
Yeah.
And that's where it leads to one of my favorite offseason names, is Alec Halaby.
Right.
Because Alec Halaby,
he's a cap guy.
He is a cap guy. He's a major analytics guy, and that was actually one concern I kind of had with him until I listened to that video. It was like a 45-minute video when they were at that symposium, whatever it was, and I talked about a couple shows ago. We talked about that.
Yeah.
And the one thing that he had mentioned that he had grown to appreciate a lot more since he was with the Eagles is that you cannot you use the numbers, use analytics to grade anything you want, especially some of these quarterbacks, and in the way that they grade them. But if you use the numbers and ignore the tape, you're not going to find a guy that's going to be pro ready. You're not going to find a guy you could potentially develop because you're worrying too much about the numbers. Right. He understands that. To what degree, I don't know 100%, but at least he understands that, and that's.
He said the right words, at least.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say about it, analytics can tell you a lot, but football, unlike baseball, especially baseball, and to an extent basketball, those sports are plug and play for almost every position. Like baseball, a shortstop is a shortstop, is like they all do the same thing. Basketball, it's a little more flexibility, but you got your centers, you got your guards.
It's simpler because there's only 5 people on the court at one time.
Right, and I know there's a lot more position flex now in basketball, but to an extent,
it's still not nearly as complicated as the game of football.
Right. Football, you have hundreds of different schemes. You have to figure out, does this kind of quarterback work with my kind of O-line? Does this kind of quarterback work with the receivers I want to get? Or vice versa, really. You should probably formulating your line and your, position group to your quarterback. But that plays into it too, because, we've started talking about the draft and the quarterbacks coming up in this draft. You have 3 quarterbacks who are probably all high first rounders right now. They all play a very different style of football. You've got a great improviser in Williams. You got May, who's just sit in the pocket, throw deep shots, high overhand, throwing motion. And then you got Daniels, who's much more Lamar Jackson like. He can play in the pocket, but he's very athletic. He can run. You need to build a completely different offense for any of them, right? Analytics.
That's why you need the GM.
Right.
The right GM who has a philosophy, not just, like the Dan Snyder, shiny toy over here. He, went to my kid's high school. Let's bring him in. I mean, you have to have a GM and a head coach are on the same page about what they want from a quarterback and what they want from an offense. And so it's really easy for the fans to stand up and say, I don't like David, David, what's his name? May, what's his first, whatever.
Drake May.
Drake
May. Yeah. Thank you. Caleb Williams is, loves his mom too much and all forget all of it. They need to decide what the team is going to be first and then bring the quarterback in to fit that.
You can make it work with any of them as long as you build the right team around.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And that's why
as long as they're not a knucklehead.
And that's why it's important that going into the offseason, you can love a play, you can love a quarterback especially, but don't marry yourself to that guy just yet.
No.
Because you have no idea what the GM's going to be and what coach is going to bring in. Because he could be you could want to bring in a GM and a coach situation. Like, just say you bring in Ian Cunningham, who brings in a Mike McDonald, defensive coordinator from Baltimore, and Mike McDonald might steal an offensive coordinator from there. So which quarterback do you think he might look at the most? He might look at Daniels.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
He might say, well, he's our guy.
Right.
Well, because of what I'm bringing in, it's going to fit that scheme and their philosophy the most.
Right.
Even though everyone loves Caleb Williams.
And this, by the way, is what Washington has not done in a generation.
Right.
Incidentally.
I will say, when they drafted RG3, they did a superb job custom tailoring an offense to him.
But if you recall, it came out afterwards that Mike Shanahan didn't even really want him.
Right. Well, that's what Mike Shanahan said after the fact. That one of my biggest pet peeves about Mike Shanahan is anytime something goes wrong, I didn't want to do it. It was Dan's idea.
Yeah, but I mean,
all
it probably
credit goes
was
to
Dan's
Shanahan
idea.
anyway.
It probably was. Yeah. Yeah.
But
that was who Mike Shanahan.
But you're right in saying for that 1 year before everything fell apart, the injury and all the rest of it, they did a real good job of tailoring the offense to him. Absolutely, they did.
Right. Amazing, probably the best job of that we will ever see.
I've said before, I did an analysis of this a while ago. I mean, that season was statistically the best season of a quarterback in Redskin history, in Washington history.
Yeah.
Right.
And on the flip side, Dwayne Haskins didn't fit what Jay Gruden does at all.
Jay Gruden didn't want him. Jay Gruden didn't try to even do the right thing. Ron Rivera didn't try to do the right thing.
He also wasn't a West Coast style quarterback. And Jay Gruden runs a very West Coast heavy system where it's quick passing and you have to Haskins is a deep ball, sit in the pocket, throw, that guy.
At a minimum, he wasn't a quick release, West Coast guy. No,
he was not a high percentage guy. He was the opposite.
He was a Tomlin guy. I think he might have succeeded on the Tomlin.
Oh,
he was a Tomlin type of guy.
That would make perfect sense to me.
Yeah,
he would fit in that. But that's the kind of stuff that's going to be fascinating to watch with who they pick as GM.
I tend to think that Hallaby, because I know it seems like Harris is stuck on the analytics part, and if Hallaby's the guy who's Mr. Analytics, that would be my
Hallaby's one name, and then I can't. The woman you just mentioned from San Francisco, Aponte. She's apparently also a big analytics person.
Mm-hmm.
I actually started reading some stuff on her, what she has done. I was very little, but I was trying to figure out exactly where the hype was with her in terms of for player evaluation side, though.
Right.
Because a lot of what she was a lawyer. She did a lot of things with capology and she on the analytics side and stuff like that and everything. But I didn't notice.
You just described the female Steve.
I know, yeah, actually.
Right. So it's like, but I didn't, not yet anyway. I haven't read any positions of like scouting or any kind of player evaluation side in terms of director player operations and stuff like that and everything. I haven't seen those roles on her resume. Not to say it disqualifies her. It's just I don't know exactly all that she brings to the table just yet, but I'm sure
she does kind of sound like me.
Yeah. Her role, if you look at her resume, and I'm looking at right now on just on Wikipedia, it's way more of the business side of football ops, not the scouting.
I think we just had a bit of a technical glitch, most likely on the recording.
Yeah.
So if Alex and Dave were talking over each other, you can blame Skype.
Yes. Thanks, Skype. Thanks, Microsoft. Good job.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Skype wanted me to shut up. That's all.
Because we probably won't have time to go back and fix it,
No.
like we would if we had, we're doing this at night and stuff. So
yeah, we do it at night, then we post it early
Right.
in the morning. That kind of
we
stuff.
can if we have time, we can cut out individual tracks and stuff, but we're not doing that. So
No,
not right now.
It takes too much time.
It just adds a little fun element to it. That's all.
Oh, Alex and I have both suffered through that many times, but
Yeah.
this is not now, not tonight.
Yeah, not on this kind of show. If we had an interview, I still would worry about it. Like that.
Yeah.
Like big shows, we worried about it.
Oh, we've glued individual tracks into Skype. We've done all kinds of things to make these shows work. You guys don't have no idea.
Yeah. So
Right.
and sometimes it's 2 or 3 times it's failed completely.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's any other major candidates we want to discuss. I mean, I think the 3 you mentioned, Dave, are going to be the inside favorites.
Now, the only thing to say about all this is that all the people you're talking about, all are with playoff teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So none of those people are going to be hired day 2. It's all going to wait. They may fire Ron on Monday.
Cunningham won't be.
I know
yeah.
that's
Right,
true.
yeah.
Cunningham won't be.
Yeah.
Now I know we talked about that real briefly. We want to save that for the show. But the question I had is in terms of front office personnel, if you're not trying to pull away a team GM to be a president of football operations for a team, if you're trying to grab a guy that's like an assistant GM or a high level scout, is it possible that they would be available almost immediately? Because I'm not saying they don't have an important role, but it's kind of like at this point of the game right now, they don't have as important a role as they would have once the offseason starts at this point of the season.
Well, look, I think most people would probably not want to do it.
I'm saying,
time.
Is it
I'm legal? I mean, if it's legal, yes.
I'm just wondering, has there been a precedence on that? That's what I'm trying to think of.
I don't
know if that's ever happened or not.
I can't recall anybody ever leaving under those circumstances at that time, nor would I. I mean, if I was in that situation, I would tell them to, come back in a week or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
It is a little interesting to me because when I'm thinking about, like, logically, when would I want a GM, I'd want to get them in to start scouting, during the football season, right? Like, because you want them to watch the college players and start making their evaluations in-house. But it always happens right at the end of the season. You can't poach somebody mid-season, which I've always found interesting for that front office stuff. But
well, you can't poach them at all unless you're going to give them a promotion. By the way, that's the other thing about this.
Oh yeah, I understand that. You have, like, there's that.
Not telling you. I'm telling the people.
Right. And you have to request permission to talk to them.
Yeah.
Which also leads to Adam Peters, because if they want him, they're probably going to have to bring him as president of football operations, because John Lynch in September got promoted from general manager to president of football operations. Now there's technically a GM spot available. So San Francisco could just go, well, we'll just slide you up and promote you up to here. If you want him, you're going to bring him in as pro football president of football operations. That's probably the only way you're going to get him, most likely.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and we haven't even discussed this. There's also the question of what you can do on the business ops side if Jason Wright might be gone, and do they want to bring in people there? I mean, I'm assuming they're going to start making moves there too.
I'll come over for the right price, I guess.
Yeah.
And for the right
irony
name.
is, you probably wouldn't be the worst candidate for it.
Probably not, no.
Yeah, but you'd have to leave Texas.
Yeah, that'd be tough. I'm not leaving Texas for Virginia, that's for sure.
For Northern Virginia?
No, hell no. I'd be a minority. I'd be a minority in a couple ways in Northern Virginia, Alex.
A couple, yeah. I guess so. Not that many. You'd be in Ashburn. It's pretty conservative over there.
More conservative, sure.
Yeah.
Granted.
Yeah.
But it ain't Texas, Alex.
It ain't Texas. They would also criticize your use of ain't,
I use ain't for effect, just in case anybody's wondering.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We haven't even looked into, like, I don't know who the best president of non-football operations would be. I mean,
I don't even care. It doesn't matter. It's,
right? Like in the end,
it doesn't
it's the
matter to me.
business side, and it doesn't really matter.
Right. Just don't screw
Except
up and
Jason Wright is supremely annoying and not very good. That's my view.
just don't have, naming Sean Taylor Street by the porta potties day. It isn't that hard of a gig. And build a stadium. That part is hard. I'll give him that. That part's going to be hard. So we got that going on. The head coach, Black Monday. Black Monday will have happened definitely by the time we're done with the show. Or by the time we're ready to do the next show.
Is there any chance Ron Rivera stays?
Right.
No, I'm asking.
I'll put it this way. If he stays, you'll probably get me for one more show on the Hog side because I'm done with Washington altogether.
Yeah.
I have toughed it out, Dave. Okay, you could tough it out too.
Nah, no way. Because you keep Ron Rivera around. I'm sorry, that's just more of the same now. It's all that is.
Yeah.
It's all that is. I'm not dealing with that anymore. I'm done.
It would be insanity if
would
Rivera to stay.
It would make
we still have to zero sense.
We still have to real quick preview the Dallas game. We never did that.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll do that real quick. Well, anyway, Ron Rivera will probably be fired Monday. I guess the only question is how will they start interviewing coaches before they have a GM? Because the GM.
They hope not. They need to not do that.
Yeah, I'd hope not too. But they might do it just so they can fulfill the Rooney Rule or whatever. Whatever.
Just for God's Christ's sake, do it right.
Yeah.
Do it right. I know you are. It's just crazy.
Well, maybe that puts Ian Cunningham number one on their board then. They want to get someone in right away, the top young candidate. You can hire him almost immediately after the season's over.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. I mean, the only other team that we know is looking is the Raiders. Those are the only two teams that are likely looking at GMs right now. So they have a good shot at Cunningham, I'd think.
Well, I mean, Washington's not a very good option, but the Raiders are a train wreck too in some ways. So
Raiders are a much better train wreck in some ways.
I mean, Washington's. I mean, they have a lousy stadium. They have a fan base and there's a lot of problems in Washington.
But you have a high draft pick. You have a lot of money to play with.
And the Raiders are a mess, and Mark Davis is a mess.
Right. You don't have to deal with Weirdo McBowlcut.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Yep.
I like that. Weirdo McBowlcut. That's good. I like that.
Yes.
I think we got the name of the show here too. Huh?
Weirdo
all right,
McBowlcut.
we can name it that. All right, let's go back and talk about the Dallas game.
Thank you.
Obviously, Washington with a lot to play for here versus the Cowboys. Cowboys are more or less locked into the second seed. They don't have any shot at the first seed, right? Like that.
No, they don't.
No.
It's already clinched by San Francisco.
Yeah.
So they're basically just playing for that second seed spot. I imagine they'll be resting some starters too, though. Anyone who's a little banged up.
It.
No, they need to win the game. They're going to go all out. They need to 100% win this game.
Well, yeah, because if they lose, Philly wins.
Right.
Philly gets a 2 seed. And
now we don't have a ton of time here, and we all know what's going to happen in this game. It's going to be a massacre. But real quick, so Dallas is a much better passing team statistically than they are a running team.
Right.
As a running team, they're only averaging 4.1 yards per carry, which isn't that good. Even Washington's better than that. But Dak Prescott is a pretty damn good quarterback. Quarterback ratings 102.9 on the season, team-wise. And, players, here, they're running backs. Tony Pollard has had success at times, but he's been kind of fair to middling overall. But they've got CeeDee Lamb is a beast. 1,600 yards passing, just 122 receptions. He is going to massacre Washington's secondary, which, by the way, the secondary
still a triage unit now.
It's a train wreck. So real quick, injury report. The DNPs Wednesday: Jonathan Allen, Tariq Castro Fields, Kendall Fuller, Christian Holmes, 3 corners, all DNPs on Wednesday. And then you got Benjamin St. Juste is limited with a concussion. That's hard to come back from too in just a week. You got to get cleared twice. So it's entirely possible they're going to be out Castro Fields, Kendall Fuller, Christian Holmes, and Benjamin St. Juste while they're facing CeeDee Lamb. So
they were a train wreck when those
and
four
Brandon
guys were
Cooks.
healthy.
And Brandon Cooks. Yeah, both of them. Yeah, so this game is going to be a total train wreck.
Yeah.
The only thing that scares me about this game is that it's such a lock for the Cowboys that it'll be one of those situations where Washington finds a way to win.
I forget you're rooting for him to lose. So you're rooting for him to lose this game, Dave. I keep forgetting.
I'm not rooting for them to lose. It's the fact that I just want them to lose, if that makes any sense at all.
So are you going to say go Cowboys? Is that what you're going to say?
No, I'm not.
Say it with me. Say it with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3, say
Merry
it.
Christmas.
Go Redskins.
You can't be hypocritical about it. You're rooting for the Cowboys to win.
You know what? You know what? I live in a country where I could be as hypocritical as I want.
Okay, fair enough.
That is like at least one amendment of the Constitution. Yes.
You win.
There's nothing that matches up well for Washington in this game.
This game is no.
It's going to be bad. The only thing I'm really rooting for is I want Terry to get that over that 1,000-yard mark again because he deserves that. He's been despite everything, he's been the constant pro that he's.
Well, let's talk about that. So Terry McLaurin, 73 receptions, 946 yards. So 54 receiving yards is the magic number.
Right.
For that.
Right. I would like to maybe first play the game, just throw him a 75-yard bomb and let's get it.
Can I just ask, has Jahan Dotson flown to Mars or something in the past few weeks? He's been a total zero. Yeah. Does anybody else notice this? He's completely disappeared.
Well, it's not just been the last few weeks. I've noticed he's been highly ineffective pretty much all year.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, his drop rate has been high. It's just it's very uncharacteristic. Yeah,
I don't get it.
Well, I mean, we talked about it before that this scheme does not use him or Terry McLaurin very well.
No.
True.
So that's a big part of it.
And the quarterback struggled.
The quarterback struggles have been a big part of it. Sam Howell's really only developed a good rapport with Curtis Samuel, it seems like, through the season. And even that's not been anything special, but
no, he's 60 receptions for 598 yards.
Right, I mean, but he goes to Samuel a lot. He doesn't
87 targets.
Yeah, he goes there quite a bit.
That's the second most targets on the team, other than McLaurin.
Mm-hmm. I was listening to Jay Gruden on one of the radio shows talk about the whole Jahan Dotson thing, and he said something that I thought was interesting. That the problem is that he's too small to be really an outside receiver, and he doesn't play like a slot receiver, and that's an issue.
That's a good observation by Jay.
Yeah, well, Jay Gruden knows a lot about offense.
Not more than us.
A little bit.
No. And so it could be an issue of how do you utilize a guy like that. Because he can be productive.
He's got outstanding skills. I told you before, I think Dotson's skills are maybe better than McLaurin in some respects.
Yeah, he's got a lot of talent, but it's utilization of a short, non-slot receiver. How do you do it? I'm not 100% sure. He's not a gadget guy. So, you've got to develop better routes for him, and you got to find people to maybe take the top off around him, and they don't have that. The problem is that he and Terry McLaurin are basically the same dude. And you can't have a whole roster built of the same type of receiver. You need a tall guy, you need a fast guy, you need different skill sets in that room.
And we're running out of time here. So the bottom line is game predictions, we all think Washington's going to get smoked. Yes. We can pick a score if you want. I'll take 34-10, but it's going to be a massacre.
I think
say 38-13.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you guys, we're all going to say around the same. I'm going to go 35-14. Just pick different numbers.
And Jahan Dotson had an interesting video that I think we'd be remiss in not addressing it. Somebody asked him, I forget the question exactly, but it was something along the lines of, what does
the team need culture-wise? Something
right. Yeah. And so what he said was interesting in that he said, everybody needs to be on board with winning culture, but he made a point to say that players need to drive the culture. And he said, all winning teams, the players are the ones that are desperate to win, and they don't have that in Washington. I thought that was really interesting.
I think he's right. I remember Joe Gibbs used to say something like that back in the 80s. Like that's what he would tell the players is it's your team. It's not my team. I could be fired tomorrow and you guys still have to go out and play.
And Dotson didn't use the words I just used. He didn't say we don't have that. He was implying that, so don't attribute that to him. But that's what he was meaning. That's what he meant.
Yeah. And he's right. They've been beaten down too much, honestly.
Yep.
It kind of begs a question on exactly when people talk about Ron Rivera was a great culture change guy. What exactly did he affect in culture?
Yeah.
I mean, he did face
a lot of challenges. Yeah, he did with Snyder. Everything behind the scenes is like that and everything. But I'm just talking about in terms of just pure football on the field and inside that locker room.
I don't know what his philosophy is.
Exactly.
On the field.
I think that's where Dotson might have been hinting towards, because when it comes to that, he did a great job on shielding his players from the whole Snyder debacle. He did a fantastic job with that.
Yeah.
He really did. But it's just in terms of, we watch it every week with him on the sidelines and how he operates the team. It's just, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's as far as football wise, I don't.
We're gonna do a post-op on Ron next week, I think. But I'll just say this: I'll be glad that he's gone, but I don't hate the guy. Like,
no,
absolutely not.
He strikes me as a very smart dude. It'd be fun to sit there and talk Eastern philosophy with him. I don't know.
He's an honorable guy. He's an honorable guy. I don't have a problem with him on a personal level like Snyder or some of these other guys.
Right, exactly.
No. Yeah, I'm sure he's a great motivator of people too outside the game itself.
I think he at one time he was good inside the game, but sometimes it passes you by.
He's had a lot of challenges. We don't need to rehash it all.
Yeah, we will next week.
The post-mortem on the Ron Rivera era, most likely next week on the Hog's Thigh.
Yes, we're not doing an emergency podcast on it, guys. Unless it's like they fire Rivera and they introduce a GM and coach like all at once, like literally like in the same press conference they ask Rivera for his ID.
Okay, you can leave now.
Yeah, it's like your car's not even warm yet. Oh, by the way, here's Ian Cunningham.
Right.
And our new coach, Mike McDonald.
Hand him a taxi voucher to the airport, maybe.
Right. Or maybe another guy named Harbaugh, who I hear might be coming back to the NFL. Who knows? All right, guys, that should wrap us up this week, though. So we will see you all next week.
Bye.
Take it easy, fellas.